We have a lawyer behind bars right now, a judge behind bars right now, the next president of this country behind bars right now, a doctor behind bars right now.
Got me locked up in this beat, and I don't know when I'm gonna see the streets again.
Hi, this is Gail Muhammad reporting live from the New Jersey State House on our National Day of Empathy. I am excited to be here with our policymakers and decision makers through our state and sharing our message of empathy. In order to get legislation passed with robust support, we need our legislators to have empathy. So we're hoping today that we can send a very strong message in the state of New Jersey that our criminal justice system is broken, and we really want them to support us in fixing it.
It's been too hard living.
I've been locked up as a juvenile.
And
I've been
I'm
away 30
afraid
years.
to die.
I remember being in prison and I was serving 25 days in a hole. I was probably on my 7th day staring at the wall. And I was wondering, like, why am I here? Like, what did I do to get here?
A long time coming.
Community must unite to call out and denounce injustice, demand change, and be the change they demand. On this National Day of Empathy, I call upon all conscientious human beings to reflect upon the 25,000 innocent men, women, and now children suffering the shame and degradation of unjust incarceration. Remember, but by the grace of God, there go you. Thank you.
I am so excited to be in my hometown of Burlington County, where we originally founded Women Who Never Give Up in 2005 here in the city of Burlington, New Jersey. We had our first honoree dinner and dance in 2005, and here we are 15 years later, 2019, made many strides in the state of New Jersey with legislation being passed, and just so excited about today and being here at Tabernacle Baptist Church, where we're holding our National Day of Empathy, which we started at the State House this afternoon for the governor's budget. And I actually had the opportunity to thank Governor Jon Corzine for his work and many years in the state of New Jersey in helping to make sure that our carceral state would be different. And today we have 7 prison universities in the state of New Jersey with over 3,100 students enrolled, and 150 have graduates already. With May, I think another 150 will be graduating. So we can actually say that Women Who Never Give Up has really put in some work on the ground. We have had boots on the ground, and we will going to continue to have boots on the ground. We also are sponsoring, are helping to push for dignity for incarcerated women and girls. We've found out that women are the fastest growing prison population, and we're going to let some of our speakers here today talk about the crisis with women in our growing prison population. But I am so just excited to be in my hometown, where I ran the streets and partied as a young girl, to come back today to educate young kids in the community about abstinence and making really great choices. We're looking forward to working with the youth in our community here in Burlington County. And it's just much work to be done. Much work to be done. And let me just bring one more point to you. We have a bill in our legislature to restore the voting rights for formerly incarcerated people and that are on parole and probation. That is something that is very important and near and dear to our heart, with New Jersey's African American community being 15% of the prison, being 15% of the population here in the state of New Jersey, but we comprise over 68% of the prison population. So with that, we have to make some changes, and it starts with us as a people. And so I'm going to enjoy listening to the speakers talk about their impact of the criminal justice system here in the state of New Jersey.
First, I just wanted to thank Pastor Corey Jones for opening up the doors here, the shepherd of this house, Tabernacle Baptist Church, for allowing this event to take place, the Day of Empathy. I want to thank Sister Gail Muhammad for all the hard work and dedication that she has done to get to this point. I just want to share a little story about myself, how I met Sister Gail. I used to drive for a living, and I used to work for this car company called Boston Coach. It was a professional car service. Part of my work, I had to drop off executives, pick them up. I had to travel to interstates a lot. I used to travel down, I had to travel down 78 a lot, up in North Jersey. And I remember times I'm going down there, God would speak to me, and he said, look, see that work detail over there? They're all your brothers, and there's something wrong with that.
But hopefully we'll pray that'll get better, but we just have to wait and see.
That's why we're having these type of programs in hopes that we can change the way people think, that it might be fruitful for everyone, not just for a few.
I'm here with my brother Aula Sumbri from all of the organizations across New Jersey.
That's right, but right now, specifically African American Cultural Collaborative in Trenton, New Jersey, and the 1719 Trent House Museum.
I met this brother. He tells me 27 years I've been doing this work. He keeps up with how many years we've been doing this work, but he says that I've been doing this work almost 30 years now, but I'm counting 21 because I know since my husband passed on March the 5th, 1997, this day it's been 21 years, so I'll just go on and claim it. But he really does know, because not only before I became the founder and president of Women Who Never Give Up, but I was a prisoner's wife, and I met him when my husband was alive. I just didn't sit back and complain about the system. I got up and went out to see what I could do as a family member to try to make things different. So today is our day that we lift up people that have been impacted by our criminal justice system and have them tell their stories. Because as long as I've known and worked in this space, there's never been a time where we have been able to talk to people that have been impacted directly by the criminal justice system. Aula can tell you a little bit about his endurance and how he survived those many years behind the wall.
Right. God is good. I have been involved in prison ministry for 35 years, but in terms of being an organizer, I began organizing in 1965 as a juvenile in Annandale. And in 1971, everything had happened up in Attica, had happened in Broadway, and we had it going on in Bordentown. And as a result of those activities, I got transferred on what they used to call the night train from Bordentown to Trenton. And in Trenton, I got politicized and have been political ever since with respect to our people and the criminal justice system. And I'm particularly concerned with the way they deal with our juveniles, because they mishandle me as a juvenile. And the mishandling resulted in me going through an over 30-year experience, okay? So now I think they're trying to be a little smarter. What they say, instead of being tough on crime,
they're supposed to be smart on crime.
Supposed to be.
But
let me, okay, like right now I'm concerned about the appeasement, accepting the appeasement. They did do something. Some people got help. Some people got out. But right now, I'm particularly concerned about people like Sundiata Acoli, victims of the COINTEL program. The COINTEL program got banned because it was so illegal, so bad. And we have all these political prisoners, they're in their 80s.
That's right.
I'm young to them. I'm 70 years old. They're in their 80s, 79, 75, in prison because they were entrapped, set up, attempted murders through the COINTEL program. And we got to do something to get these brothers out. The Jericho movement, they got everybody named that's in there. And all this changing, all this reform, let's start with the people we know are victims. And I'm talking about the political prisoners. The people, if they would have left them alone, we never would have had a gang problem. But by them snatching them up, undermining the Black Panther Party, undermining our organizations that was going to take care of and make sure we didn't have a bunch of foolishness in the community, they destroyed those organizations. They imported the crack, the cocaine, the heroin, everything, all the drugs got real good. Okay, after they done destroyed our leadership, and then the boys took over. We come up with a gang problem. They should have left the men alone.
I'm a prisoner. Yes, I'm a prisoner. You got me locked up in this streets.
From prison July 24th, 2018. Since I've been home, I have some hardships, adversities, and it's crazy because they prepare us for this in prison. They give us the federal bonding program where we can go to companies and show them that this program is to help pay for any damages or merchandise that may be stolen from any person that's working there. And since I've been home, I worked for like 3 months due to family. They helped me out with a job, and I was let go due to lack of transportation. So now I'm at the temp agencies. They hired me. I'm working for a company in Burlington, and they let me go when they found out my background. That's supposed to help us. She turned me down and said my criminal history was too violent because they find out our history and our background. That is one hardship I'm dealing with. And another thing is, since I've been home, me being on the streets, I was walking down the street, I want to say 3 months ago, and some officers hemmed me up. I dress like this every day. It's not to show off, it's not to look good. And my cousin just said something to me today when I hopped out my car and I hopped in his. He said, I got to bring you back because you dressing like that, man, get you hit, bring you up to speed. I said, nah, I dress like this for a reason. He really doesn't know that, but that day that I got locked up woke me up, and they hit me up. I was dressed in my jeans, regular hoodie on, and they took me to the police station, and this is just because of my record. It's violent crime. I shot someone in the face. I'm not scared to talk about it. It's a part of my life. And just because of that, they took me to the police station, ran me for warrants, took me off the streets, and then apologized when they released me because they seen my pay stubs. They seen everything that I've been doing since I've been home because I've been dealing with other organizations like the brothers running here. Appreciate you, man, because we need more of this. That's the only way it's going to stop, is if we as a people empower each other and enlighten each other, because they don't really care. They apologized to me afterwards and said, sorry, sir, this is what the governor wants because we got to meet a certain quota by Thanksgiving. That's exactly what they told me. So that means that we just apprehend whoever we see that looks suspicious, and if they do have warrants, we'll find out when we take them to the police station. If I was dressed like this, I promise you they wouldn't have done that because officers open the door for me. How you doing today, sir? They speak to me with respect. But when I want to dress down, it's like I'm a target, you know what I mean? And the only way we can deal with that is if we deal with that amongst ourselves. You can't keep asking for things and doing this. We have to have more programs like this, as well as Youth Build. I was a motivational speaker in 2006, nationwide doing this. And I see you came home, you told me you've been home for 5 years now, and you accomplished this. This is very, very good, and we need more of this. That's the only way it's going to stop. So that's my story. So have a nice night.
So I remember being in prison, and I was serving 25 days in the hole. I was probably on my 7th day of staring at the walls, and I was wondering, like, why am I here? Like, what did I do to get here? And I recall, like, 2 years prior, I was on my way to Morehouse. That was my dream, to go to Morehouse College in Atlanta. But somehow I ended up in a cell with all my belongings in my hand, all my property that I owned in the world in my hand. And I decided to be the change that I wanted to see. And from there, I took every college class that I could take while in prison. I took paralegal courses. I became the jailhouse lawyer for people who caught charges in jail. I worked in the law library to help get people home. And when I returned home, I'm a native of Elizabeth, New Jersey, born and raised, and I've been home for 16 years, thankfully. When I came home, I came straight to Burlington County with family that I have down here because I wanted to get away from the temptations of my city. And Burlington County welcomed me, and I started attending Burlington County College. From there, I attended Rutgers University in Camden. And while I was attending Rutgers University in Camden, I stumbled across a halfway house that was like right in the parking lot of Rutgers University, which was Fletcher House. And I had been on, I counted 66 interviews that I went on, and nobody hired me. And I remember trying to get the job at that halfway house so I could help people who come from the position that I came from. And the supervisor told me he hired me because I had a nice suit. He said, I hired you because your suit was nice, and everybody else came in here with jeans and sneakers. So from there, well, I can say it's 3 people in here right now that were residents in different halfway houses that I worked in: Camden, in Newark, in Trenton, in Kearney. Zoo Life was in there. Kay Burner was in there. Tiana was in there. I met these people while they were going through their struggles, and I was on the other side. They could attest to how I handled it in there. But so nowadays, I run two mentoring programs in my hometown in Elizabeth, where I service 80 kids. I have a mentoring program in Mercer County where I'm in the high schools, in 4 different high schools where I service 60 kids. And now my plan is to come to Burlington County and do the same and mentor kids here. Thank you. Like I said, I was working in the halfway houses with adults, and my plan was to, help them out and tell them my struggles, and so they can go about it the right way. But I changed my path, and I started working with the kids because I want to catch the kids before they get to 18 and before they get that first felony. So that's my mission now. I'm working with the youth before they could, I want to teach them to go the right way and not have to take the detour that I took. But thank you for your time.
How y'all doing? I'm from Trenton, New Jersey. My name is James Livingston, better known as Jamil. Breaking my chains was, I'm a system baby, so I was made through the system. So growing up in Trenton like that is easy. It's real easy to hustle. It's easy to gangbang. It's easy to put the wrong type of work in. So being a black man, nowadays, even probably late 90s going into the 2000s, I did something that they said was difficult to do. Just try to stay straight but real with myself. Went to college, finished high school, played ball, but it's like life got realer the more I got older because I understood I didn't see my dad till I was 10. So the life lessons that I was supposed to get before I actually seen him to myself at 10, I had to kind of like teach myself, or, the single parent moms was showing us. But just advice, for the mothers, keep being like that. Keep staying strong, because without your father, it's real easy to do the things you think you're not even doing. So, you know, my dad came home, I was 10. I didn't go to school for the whole week, trying to get back time with him. So the things I learned from him was life lessons. And it was just like, you know, respect. It doesn't matter for a man, a woman, a thing, a pet. Just have respect, show compassionate. And when he told me those things, it was, I see why my mom liked them. And I see how they just started attracting. And, you know, he's about 2.5 years gone now, but I just seen the impact it had on my mom. It hurt her more than it even hurt me, because they were friends before I even came into play. So the story I'm saying about me seeing him at 10, it was a bigger story way before, you know, I was made, because at Rawway at the time, if you was married or you could do that. That's how I was made. You know, I got pictures right now, I'm on the yard, but I don't shy away from it because it's a real story. But I just remember that when my dad came home, he just showed me so many others like me. His dad was just like, you know, he was like you. I remember y'all was running around in the yard. So just his words of encouragement and him not being here is me reflecting and taking time out to do little things in life, which is change. So like I said, he was a boxer. I play ball, you know, it's athlete, but just the competitiveness. So now that I'm done school, coaching now, high school boys. So showing them, I just remember my first day there, and everybody knows this is a different era. So my first day there, it's a lot of gang. It was a lot of that going on, and it's like, okay, how do I get to them? Because I could get to them two ways, the soft way or the street way, but how can I get to them to make them understand this is not what's going on? So I blew the whistle, I called everybody around, and I just told everybody, raise their hand if you want to gangbang. Nobody raised their hand. So I asked them again, because I know once we blow the whistle to start, it can't be no more gang. So nobody raised their hand, and I said it one more time, because if you want to be a gang member, this is not what we doing. I'm a gang member. If this is not what we doing and we get outside of this, that means you're trying to take my life, so I can't be a coach no more. You can't be a player to me no more. So let's just move this out the way and focus on the change in life. My cousin Kim right here, you're a real mentor, but more of a role model. Not for me, just for the family, period, boys and the women. So just being strong by paying her back with respect, standing on what my dad told me to stand on, always being there for my mother, because he gone now. So the things I seen when he came home, I'm glad I saw, because it's helping me be more of a man. He came home, he married my mom. So I'm going to marry whoever I'm going to marry. That's just what's going on. I'll be single till it's that time. So that's how my dad was. So I'm going to be like that, you know. So look at me. You know, we came out the right way. So hopefully when I have kids, they'll come out like that. Thank you.
So nearly 1 out of every 100 Americans is behind bars, a 500% increase over the last 30 years. We spend $80 billion per year on prisons and jails. $80 billion a year on prisons and jails.
Thank God for you, because without people like this, many of our brothers and sisters that find themselves behind these walls would just be forgotten. You know, I want to say this now, I want 2 minutes and get off of here. I have been a student and follower of Minister Louis Farrakhan for some 24 years. And I can say, being honest, I've heard the minister over the years talk about the war on drugs, being a war on black people. And I can truthfully say that I heard him and I believed it because I know the minister to be a truthful man. They call Minister Farrakhan a lot of things, but one thing I never heard him called is a liar. And so when he talked about this war on drugs being a war on black people, I can say that I heard it, I believed it, but I really didn't understand it. Understand it in a way where I could articulate it to somebody if you asked me to explain it. And I gotta say that I think probably most of our people, the reason we really don't rise up against mass incarceration in the way that we should is because we really don't understand how it works. We really don't understand it enough to be able to articulate it. In the back of my mind, when I would hear the minister talk about this, I always thought, well, maybe they did something to deserve being in prison. Now, I'm just being honest with you. But it was not until I heard the mayor mention this, not until I read this book by Michelle Alexander called The New Jim Crow, that I was really able to understand the criminal justice system and the way this system works. And brother and sister, I can tell you that we're not going to understand this until we go back to the genesis of how black people got in this country. When black people came to this country, there has always been a racial hierarchy, and there has always been a system of control of darker people. And that first system of control was called slavery. And in 1865, when people rose up and did away with that system of slavery, that system went away. There was a period of what we would call confusion. But in about 10 years, that system reappeared again, and it reappeared in the form of what was called Jim Crow. And Jim Crow existed for another 100 years or so. And when people rose up and challenged the Jim Crow system, there was a period of time where the system collapsed, a period of confusion, but then that system was transformed, and hence mass incarceration was born. And that's where we are today. I listened to the brother, I don't see the brother in here now, he was talking about the challenges he's had since he come home. When you go into this book, this sister talks about and lays out for us vividly how when you get labeled as a felon, you are effectively locked out of American society. If you get labeled as a felon, you have no more rights today than a black man had in the Jim Crow South. They can legally discriminate against you. You can't get a job. They can legally lock you out of certain jury duty. I mean, it's a whole bunch of things so it's as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us, when you go into the 13th Amendment, they put a loophole in the 13th Amendment. Slavery shall not exist in the United States of America except when you commit a crime. See, when you commit a crime in this country, you go back to being a legalized slave. And so we got to understand this system and its relationship to us. So I'm going to close on this point with something from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And these are words that he lifted up from Dr. Martin Luther King, because I think it explains the criminal justice system probably in the best way that I have ever heard it put. This was Dr. King, who made a speech in 1967. It was after the riots had hit, and he was assessing the riots. And Dr. King in this speech lifted up the poet Victor Hugo at the beginning of the speech, and he uttered these words. He said, "If the soul is left in darkness, sins will be committed. But the guilty one is not he who commits the sin. The guilty one is he who creates the darkness." See, we need to understand that our brothers and sisters that are locked away in the prisons, they may be guilty of crimes, but you didn't create the darkness. See, and what we need to be talking about is the darkness that has been perpetuated on our community that causes our brothers and sisters to go into a life of crime. Does that make sense? See, that's why we need to come back out of this and talk about mass incarceration and really understand it so that our community can really understand what's going on. Dr. King went on to say, listen to this, the policymakers of white society have caused the darkness They created the discrimination. They created the slums. They perpetuate unemployment, ignorance, and poverty. It is incontestable and deplorable that Negroes have committed crimes, but they are derivative crimes. They are born of the greater crimes of white society. Now, that wasn't no flame-throwing Muslim that said that. That was Dr. Martin Luther King who said that. And I mean, that's probably the best assessment that I've ever heard of it. So, you know, again, I thank God for you, Sister Gail. To my young brothers, man, I'm so impressed with you all. Some of our best and our brightest are locked away in these prisons. And that's in the Bible and in the Holy Quran. You find that some of our best and our brightest. You know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, I'm a preacher. You got to come pull me off. Because once I get started, but I'm going to close on this. Minister Farrakhan, I heard our minister say, he said that some of our best and our brightest are locked away behind these prison walls. Because the brothers that end up going to prison, these are natural leaders. See, most of us that are able to make it in American society are those who you able to conform. So you know how to go down to the job and speak the King's English in the right way. Laugh at the jokes and just go along to get along. But these brothers that end up behind these walls, these are natural leaders. So they can't conform. So therefore, they find themselves locked away. And when society just writing them off, as my sister said, you writing off the next president, the next doctor. So brothers, I love you. Keep doing what you're doing, and God bless. So let's bring our sister back on with a warm, warm round of applause.
These are our brothers from SCI. What is it?
SCI Smithfield.
Okay. This is Trevor. Go ahead. This is the Day of Empathy, and we're asking you guys, why are you supporting the Day of Empathy from inside?
And greetings. My name is Trevor Mattis. I'd like to thank Ms. Gail Mohammed and women who never give up for their decades of commitment to justice for the voiceless and powerless prisoners. They are living examples of empathy. Empathy is the ability to put oneself in the shoes of another, to feel their plight and understand their pain. Without a radical restoration of genuine empathy for lifers in the nation's consciousness, I will die behind bars for a crime I did not commit. This is why the National Day of Empathy is important to me. I will address the issue of wrongful convictions. According to the National Registry of Exonerations 2016, in 2014, 139 wrongfully convicted prisoners were exonerated. In 2015, 149 were exonerated. The Innocence Project estimates that between 2% and 5% of the people incarcerated today were wrongfully convicted. If only 1% of the people incarcerated were wrongfully convicted, that means at least 25,000 innocent men and women are languishing in prison right now, the vast majority of whom are poor people of color. The justice system is broken. It's no longer news that an innocent person has been exonerated after spending decades in prison. Exonerations don't make the front page nor the lead story of the news cycle. Society is now thoroughly conditioned to tolerate this injustice. One must negate their empathy instinct in order to normalize wrongful convictions and rationalize it as being an inevitable part of the criminal justice system. Once a society has accumulated an empathy deficit of such magnitude that it can tolerate the injustice of wrongful convictions, that society will tolerate any injustice. Tolerance of gross injustice is a precursor to social death. Tolerating a gross injustice does not destroy society in and of itself, but it serves to weaken the democratic principles of fairness that undergirds a free society. Empathy gangrene sets in when a society tolerates injustices, and the grassroots community must mount an immune response of activism via organization, mobilization, and direct action democratic small d resistance if it is to avoid moral decay and eventual destruction. The community must unite to call out and denounce injustice, demand change, and be the change they demand. On this National Day of Empathy, I call upon all conscientious human beings to reflect upon the 25,000 innocent men, women, and now children suffering the shame and degradation of unjust incarceration. Remember, but by the grace of God, there go you. Thank you.
Wow. That was extremely emotional to hear him say that he's going to die behind bars as an innocent man, and to just think that there are so many innocent men, women, and like he said, children, men, women, and like he said, children that are incarcerated right now, that are spending their time behind bars for things that they did not do. And that right there was, I had to turn around because I didn't want y'all to see me cry, because that was extremely, extremely powerful to hear him say that. And if you guys could hear, he's extremely educated. It again negates every standard statistic that they try to throw at us, that these are uneducated people that are behind. He is extremely educated and knew exactly what he was talking about. And that is the things that we need to focus on, that we have a lawyer behind bars right now, a judge behind bars right now, the next president of this country behind bars right now, a doctor behind bars right now. That is extremely disheartening to know. And there's children that are going to grow up in this community that were behind bars that are never going to be able to get a fair chance because of their past. And I just think that's something that we really, really, really need to focus on.
My name is Jay Sykes Jr. I am the co-founder and director of programs and strategic relations for the nonprofit organization Hotep Worldwide Incorporated. I'm an entrepreneur, community organizer, and hip-hop artist professionally known as Zoo Life. I'm also a son, a brother, a uncle, a father, etc., etc. I'm naming these positive titles as affirmation of who I am and the character I strive to live up to today. For a long time, there were a bunch of different titles and asterisks that popped up next to my name that a lot of my peers and I are overcoming to this day. Titles and labels that were placed on us oftentimes since we were children. Not oftentimes, but wait, not to get off topic because it's crazy. We was just talking about having this discussion, pardon me, about titles and labels and the things that are placed on you and how they can have a major effect on your personal development and ultimately determine the direction that your life is headed to. Oftentimes leaving you feel like you have an unfulfilled destiny because of these titles. Like, for example, how many special education classes around the nation are filled with little black boys that have been labeled with ADHD, behavioral problems, learning disabilities since they were in pre-K? These are oftentimes the same little black boys who are deemed uncontrollable once they reach junior high school. The same ones that fill up the in-school suspensions, get out-of-school suspensions, get expelled, and then sent to the JDC before they even see a prom. The school-to-prison pipeline is a definite reality in most urban communities around the nation, period. With little to no access to rehabilitative programs for first-time offenders, or barely any extracurricular activities or different programs to serve as alternative options to violence and adolescent behavior, we see the numbers of those juveniles getting incarcerated, they're growing and growing. The statistics are staggering. Quick history on myself. I was born and raised in this community, Burlington City. I went to the schools in this community. I played sports in this community. So did my family. My family well known out here. But at the same time, at some point in most adolescents' life, we start to become influenced and influenced by and gravitate towards people, places, and things outside of our household. What oftentimes baffled me was, being in this community, how is it that we live in such a small town, small community? We all grew up together. We all had access to the same resources. You know what I mean? We went to the same schools. But the kid who grew up across the tracks can, and most likely will, have a completely different reality and destiny than the people who live on this side of town. It's like the kids who get in trouble over there, they looked at as victims. The kids over here, they looked at as targets. You don't believe me? Check this out. I was about 14 and 15 years old when I started, getting in that adolescent stage, gravitating towards things I wasn't supposed to be gravitating towards outside of my household. 14, 15 years old. By 16 years old, I was sitting in a cell, waved up to an adult, and now on my way to state prison for the next 10 years of my life. With no prior convictions, no violent history, no one was murdered, nobody got hurt, no property damage, nothing was stolen. 10 years. Just to make an example for the kids from that side of town. At 16, was I that much of a monster? You feel what I'm saying? Was I that much of a criminal that nothing could be done for me but to send me to prison? Is that the solution for all of our children? A solution of healing, a solution of love, a solution of peace. You know what I'm saying? So before I go, this is why when I was incarcerated, I had the idea of starting an organization called HOTEP. HOTEP means peace. It means peace. Peace is the absence of chaos, corruption, and confusion. So that's what we strive to bring to the community. That's what we strive. That's what I want to do to the next generation, for the next generation. I never want to see another 15-year-old go through what I had to go through. Ever. Especially off of one little mistake. That can't be the solution. So, thank y'all.
The reason that empathy is so important to me, I lost my husband 21 years ago today, who was fighting for his freedom while incarcerated, fighting to come home to his family. This is his son. He also spent time behind the bars. We talk about intergenerational incarceration. When you take a loved one from a home, a father, it's like being in a house with no roof, and you get rained on, poured on, and stormed on when our parents are taken away from their families. And so I just want to know that empathy is needed in our country, with us being 5% of the world's population, but we compromise 25% of the prison population in the United States of America. We have got to fix that. And so I encourage all of American people to stand up, step up, and speak out. Thank you so much for this time to come to you and to bring you live from Tabernacle Baptist Church on our Day of Empathy.
As far as showing the brothers that's incarcerated empathy, man, like I don't think people out here understand the trials and tribulations that they go through while incarcerated, man. It's more of a psychological warfare they playing, man, and they need the family support. You know what I mean? Those that's there to help them understand what's going on the outside, to keep them abreast on the changes that's being made out here, man. So, they don't lose hope. Because it's real easy to lose hope in there, man. Brothers come home with ambition, man, and they get smacked with reality, man, because they wasn't in tune. So stay in touch with your peoples behind them walls, man. Educate them on what's going on out here so they'll be fully prepared when they get home. Thank you.
As you all know, my name is Sonia Rice. I am a beauty educator. I was a victim of domestic violence, and my son was involved as well. And The message is breaking the chains. I had a thought on my mind, and the thought was this: in order to produce a diamond, pressure must exist. Be a leader, not a follower. That's one of the affirmations that I used to tell my son every single day before I dropped him off to school. I am so proud of the man you are today. My joy, my loving dad, a loving dad, my son, a lyricist, an artist, an advocate, my warrior, Joy Edmondson.
My grandmother, she was fighting cancer. She was on a deathbed. My father was on parole. Now, being as though he was in Massachusetts and my grandmother lived in New Jersey, there were restrictions. So he couldn't just come to New Jersey without being under supervision. And when I mean supervision, he literally was chauffeured and followed like every move. Couldn't do anything. And he was only allowed 3 days. So after those 3 days, he left, went back to Massachusetts, and a few weeks after that, my grandmother passed, and he couldn't attend the funeral. And the feeling of not having my father at that moment made me quite numb, to be honest. And I realized life was real, and the effects of my father not being in my life at the age of 15 gravitated me to the streets even more. A few months after that, I turned blood. Sex, money, murder to be exact. And I was living a lifestyle surrounded by negativity and destruction, which led me to go into jail myself and later prison. And that caused my family stress, pain, financial burdens out of this world. And it was very selfish of me. But I was young and dumb. And I was putting my son through the same thing that my father put me through. And when I was incarcerated for the crime that sent me down to prison, my son turned 3 years old 3 weeks after that. So I missed his birthday. And one of the most important things I used to constantly think about when I was incarcerated was like, how am I going to regain that reconnection with my son, being as though he went away at such a young age? Like, how do I get that back? Like, how do I really be a father? So I was confused. But overall, since I came home, I've done a great job readjusting. And thanks to the help of my family while I was incarcerated, and I'm blessed that I have great family that helped raise my son, like, it wasn't that hard. And now that I'm prison free, I'm parole free, I'm a part of an amazing organization that is family, nothing less. And we all share the same common goals. And honestly, I feel as though we could really make groundbreaking change, iconic change that we could really like shift not only the state, not only the country, but the world in our reality. And it's too many of our kings and queens incarcerated, and events like this is the start of all that. Sister Gail Muhammad, your strength is amazing, and I appreciate you. I appreciate my organization, Cousin Kim, that I call her, Kimberly Hayes, Mania Cleveland, Jay Sykes, Patrick. That's family. And just to conclude, I just want to continue to strive and have positive people around me and just elevate and just decrease the incarceration rate as much as we can. Thank you.
It's been a long time coming, a long time coming. know a change is gonna come, yes. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, and I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's out there behind the sky. It's been a long time coming, a long time coming, but I know the change is gonna come, yes. Oh, yes, it will. So I go to movies, then I go downtown. But somebody keep telling me, don't mess around. It's been a long time coming, a long time coming, but I know now. Oh, yes, it will.
To put this all in perspective, if I would have bet 500, if I would have bet anybody that I would have been presenting something after a performance by Jay Sykes, man, I would have been rich today. So, and Troy, and I've gone way back with everybody here with Jay, and when we first met Troy, he said his name. I was like, Dreads, and he's like, yes. I was like, all right. So, and it was killing me. I was like, how did I know? But again, it's an honor to be here tonight. I want to thank Hotep, the e-board from Hotep. I want to thank Gail Muhammad, very inspirational. And again, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. So I did write a quick speech. It won't be too long, so I won't bore you. But I play several different roles in the community, from the police officer who may have to arrest somebody, or the public servant that would have to that also serves the community. So a life is not important except for the impact it has on other lives. The sentence is inscribed in what appears to be a normal gravestone in Cypress Hill Cemetery in New York City. This saying came from a great man who lies at that gravestone, a man who broke barriers and changed lives forever. This man is Jackie Robinson. Now, Jackie Robinson was a pioneer in the game of baseball. He is known for breaking the race barrier in professional baseball, specifically when he joined the Brooklyn Dodgers. Jackie is honored by not only in the Hall of Fame, but on the anniversary of Jackie Robinson's first appearance in the major leagues, better known as Jackie Robinson Day, every professional baseball player wears the infamous number of jersey number 42. Now, with that hidden in the history books is the drive and the barriers Jackie Robinson had to go through to get to the major leagues. One major barrier Jackie Robinson had was Jackie himself. He was stubborn. Watching a documentary, listening to his wife, she described about how stubborn Jackie was and how very big he was on the principle of things. She described how he would talk to him, she would try to talk to him off the ledge, and he would do something knowing that he was going to catch flack from people and knowing that he was going to stand out from his teammates. The bottom line is that Jackie did it. Jackie Robinson broke the silence. Jackie Robinson quieted the crowd of negativity, rose above the hatred and racism, and he stared on a daily basis. He did it, and we're forever in debt to him. So what do we have in common today that I'm talking about a baseball player from the 1940s? Ladies and gentlemen, it is not only the details of Jackie Robinson that's important here. It was his mission, it was his principle, and it was his vision. Now, I want to explain the story of a young man a few years back I talked to. This young man was in foster care during his childhood, didn't know his biological parents, and both of his adoptive parents were dead by the time he was 16. He currently has a family member incarcerated in state prison, and he was looking for guidance himself. This young man was seeking a cause and wondered if he was heading down the right road by getting into law enforcement with a genuine motivation to help his community to get better. I told this young man he must take his own principles, his own drive, and ensure that whatever he does for the right reasons, people will respond to him, and by leading people, he will be able to create a better community. So why do I bring this up today? Why discuss Jackie Robinson at an event where we discuss criminal justice reform, incarceration, and listening to the returning of citizens on their journey back and to make a positive change? Why, during the Day of Empathy around the country, we listen to local professionals, law enforcement leadership, and family members of those incarcerated, why did we learn about a baseball player? I stand before you tonight supporting a cause along with organizations who want to promote peace, who want to work with the community to empower, strengthen, and develop the family unit through various means, and reinstitute pillars of the community that they may once have damaged themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's one thing I've learned throughout my career in law enforcement, is that we cannot arrest our way out of this problem. While I do believe some people must remain off the streets, we cannot arrest our way out of gang violence. We cannot arrest our way out of the opioid epidemic. And in Burlington City, we have not fully recovered from the crack epidemic from the 1980s and 1990s. Because of that epidemic, we now have third and fourth generation residents that are negatively affected through behavioral health and negative social impacts such as poverty and the breakdown of the family unit. We must conquer this as a community together, not as a police officer, not as a citizen, not as a clergy member or elected officials, but we must do it as members in the community working together for one goal. In our area, we need to become more pioneers ourselves, working collectively to address our community needs. With our local community leaders, elected officials, religious leaders, community-based organizations like HOTEP, we collectively can make a difference. We cannot break the barriers and show the rest of the state. We could break the barriers and show the rest of the state how it could be done if we work together. By open communication, candid discussion, and relying on the principles that we set forth, we too, like Jackie Robinson, can rise above the negativity and hatred while enabling programs that can be sustained to allow future generations to succeed. I believe that this all-star team, made up of Troy, made up of Jay, and made up of everybody here, we could all make that happen. We could win together as a team, but we will all fall short as an individual. I am ready for the ride, and I want everybody here to be by my side. So now I want to bring back that young man that I talked to about the speech. He seemed to be doing pretty well. He's now a police captain with the Burlington City Police Department, and I stand in front of you tonight. Thank you. Jay, should I drop the mic?
I want to say that I think that everyone in the room has experienced some type of after effect with someone being incarcerated. I know me personally, I've experienced it, my family's experienced it, and the people that I surround myself experienced it. And I always say that some of the smartest people that I've ever met in my entire life were people that were incarcerated.
My name is Anton Henshaw. As she said, I'm a returning citizen. I've been locked up as a juvenile. I've been away 30 years straight. I left the streets in 1988. I just came home September 5th, 2018. And I want to apologize to everyone in this room. And the reason I'm apologizing to everyone in this room is I started a trend when I was young. This was before I got incarcerated. And it was a cycle of violence, it was a cycle of gang violence, it was a cycle of guns, drugs, and everything. I'm not saying I'm the cause of everything, I'm saying I'm the inspiration for some of it. And I truly apologize to every community that I go into before I even speak. And I apologize to you for my part in creating this problem. And I'm here today standing before you as a solution to this problem. My lovely leader, my queen leader, Miss Gail Muhammad. And she came inside, and it was a dark time in my life. And in that darkness, she brought a flashlight. And I've been wielding that flashlight ever since. And she brought hope when we were in despair. She brought meaning to meaninglessness. And what wound up happening was it started a movement inside the worst place in this state, Trenton State Prison. I didn't get to go to a juvenile facility. I went straight to an adult facility, 5'4", 118 pounds. They didn't care. Going right to the sharks. to the beast. I survived, despite what they tried to do. But in trying to do that, I came up against a lot of obstacles. And those obstacles only made me stronger. But I had to go back to my roots. Education was always my safe place. Even when I was beaten in my own home, in my cycle of violence. So when I hit the streets, I hit them hard. I didn't play no games, I didn't take no shorts. But also, I took that same concept and I applied it to my books. I read over 15,000 books during my 30 years of incarceration. I don't know everything, there's still a lot I want to know. Because out here, y'all got Audible, and I ain't got to read no more than read to me. But I met some very, very beautiful young brothers. And I had people like Gail, who spoke in my life, but I also had a prison father. His name is Jerome Perkins. This man didn't know me from nothing. And he saw something in me. He saw a light, the same light that Gail shined. And he believed in me. And he inspired me to think beyond my circumstances and situation and want more and want better. And the beautiful part about it was he was an educator.
What you see with this criminal justice system now is intentional. Don't think it's not. Our young brothers have value. All right? As a member of Alpha Baptist Church, we have a prison ministry team there that I helped start. It's called Orange Harvest, and we go into Mount Holly County every month. The current chair of that ministry is Deacon Miles. Raise your hand, brother. That's my partner right there. He's also the vice chair of our deacon board at Alpha Baptist. And I also want to really give a special recognition to Deacon Winfield, Christ Baptist Church. Deacon Winfield is, if it wasn't for Deacon Winfield, we wouldn't be ministering in Mount Holly. He's like a chaplain there. He's responsible for getting all of the different ministries and organizations who want to help out, who want to go minister, and to just go and give hope to those young men in Mount Holly. And that's what we do. We give them hope. And we do have a few of them when they come out, they come and visit our church, and we love on them, and that's what I do. But we want to really become advocate, and we really want to work with this Cut 50 and trying to do our part to try to reduce this prison population. When I say we got value, those young men got value. Anytime a nation or a state wants to spend $45,000 to keep you incarcerated, you got value, okay? It's intentional.
Thank you for the invitation to speak in front of you tonight. Day of Empathy speech. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. James Baldwin. Good evening, ex-offender, formerly incarcerated, returning citizen, felon, ladies and gentlemen, friends and loved ones. As mayor, I greet you on behalf of the Common Council and the residents of this 342-year-old city of Burlington. Welcome home. We're glad that you have returned home. I personally want to tell each one of you that I love you, that the city of Burlington loves you, that you need to hear it because we have some work to do. We can't do it without you. This community building, whether it's under a capitalist system, a socialist system, a dictatorship, or a combination of them all, requires full participation. There's no sitting on the sidelines. As James Baldwin advised, we cannot change a thing until we face a thing. I like to dream big, but I also acknowledge the reality that after I leave this evening, or maybe tomorrow, I could become faced with a life-changing event that could place me in the prison system. Situations with the right mix of ingredients, a touch of speeding to work, an argument with my wife, kids, parents, the neighborhood dispute with the dash of life's secret spice. The Eighth Amendment to the United States Constitution protects citizens against cruel and unusual punishment. However, peonage, sharecropping, convict leasing, chain gangs, or today's prison industrial complex are tightly bound political, cultural, social systems of racial oppression that have deprived hundreds of thousands of citizens of their happiness, health, and liberty, and sometimes even their lives. Over 130 years ago, on the 24th anniversary of the emancipation, Frederick Douglass stated in a speech, "Where there's justice denied, where poverty is enforced, where ignorance prevails, where any one class is made to feel that society is an organized conspiracy to oppress, rob, and degrade them, neither person nor property will be safe." This is a problem not just for victims of injustice, but all of society. That is one thing we need to face. In doing research for tonight's event, I came across an opinion article in the March 3rd, 2019 New York Times by Michelle Alexander, author of The New Jim Crow, Mass Incarceration of the Age of Colorblindness. Whether you are a statistic or you compile the statistics, we have a big problem that the old ways will not solve. You know this data better than I. There are 2.2 million people who are locked in our prisons and jails. There are 4.5 million people who are under the correctional control of outside prison walls, on probation or on parole. There are 70 million people who have criminal records that are authorized legal discrimination against them, relegating them to a permanent second-class status. The overwhelming majority ensnared by the system have been convicted of nonviolent crimes.
Wow. Sometimes you don't know all the stuff you do. Like, I just work. It was a problem in our state, and just had to fix it. And so little girl went to work, little Willingboro girl, with strong Burlington County roots. We here in Burlington County is family. And I'm humbled and honored to be home and taking this day, the divine intervention for March the 5th for my husband who passed. But today I got my family in this room too. I was married before I married the second husband. And my family is here from that marriage too. So I've been blessed and to have a good life. And when I found out about the criminal justice system, when I met Darrell's father, and I started looking at all the brown and black men, that was lingering behind them walls, and the kids and the families. And when my husband died, there was just a void there, and I had made so many extended family members behind that wall. I met so many amazing human beings that I just didn't understand how they wound up being there. So, unlike a lot of other people that I went in, I volunteered to go inside. And I'm a healing part of some of Gail Williams, Gail Campanella Williams Muhammad is a healing part. And so I felt as though the people that wound up in prison after I met his father had to be something wrong with our criminal justice system, period. And so in order for me to really find that out, I had to go behind the wall and sit down. Circle up is what I call it. The brothers and I get in a circle. And I started finding out how they got there. And it just wasn't right, and it wasn't fair, and in some of the cases, they were just straight out innocent. So it's important to me for our law enforcement, when you're working in our communities, to look at our little black boys as babies like you look at your own, and not as a commodity for our prison industrial complex. It broke my heart to find out that 10 to 20 little boys, 10, 15 little black boys was going to jail in my state before 1 white and 3 Latino. I had a problem with that, and it's still just as bad. So I ask all of us in our communities to work with our law enforcement officers and help them to understand that our kids are kids too, and that they make mistakes too. And we want them to get treated just like your kids get treated when they go to the criminal justice arena, because it doesn't happen for our babies. And I know that because I just didn't sit back and let nobody tell me. I went to find out myself, and it's bad. It's really bad in my state. And I never, as a New Jerseyan, would think that we would rather lock up our babies than educate them. But we're spending $45,000 to incarcerate one black body in this state, where it only takes $7,000 to educate a child. So I went to work in my state to make it better. And today, and I got to thank Governor John Corzine myself, because he was a champion in our state, and he signed into law Education and Rehabilitation Act of 2010. And we have over 3,100 enrolled prisoners going to college today in New Jersey. We have 150 graduates with their bachelor's degrees, 60 of them, 60 with their bachelor's, 12 going on to PhD school. I'm so proud of them. And that came from right here in Burlington County, because raised also in Burlington County was George Heyman, who was the Department of Corrections Commissioner. And he and I, with his blessing, took legislators behind the wall in our state, and those prisoners, male and female, we draft legislation that ultimately became law in this state. And I want to tell you all, you do matter. We do have a voice. Our work does matter. Your vote does count. We cannot let our 18-year-olds turn 18 without registering them to vote. It is important that they do their civic duty as well. So I could really go on and on and on, but I want to hear from everybody that came out today, because this was a day that Van Jones and the Cut 50 team put together for people who have been impacted by the system to tell their stories, to uplift their stories, because nobody really cares. When I started doing this work 20-some-odd years ago, somebody will tell you, we couldn't talk about people in prison. We couldn't. We talked in churches. We talked in forums. It was a dirty little secret we had in New Jersey. Nobody wanted to talk about it. I even got kicked out of places talking about it. But then they would come chase me to my car and tell me, I've got a son locked up and can you call me? So we had to work to remove the stigma that was connected to our children going to prison. And once I got to educating the people in the communities about the laws, then people started waking up. And so today, I was invited to the White House to support the First Step Act. And then I came back home, I was called a coon. I was called all kind of horrible names by activists that looked like me, because I was invited to the White House because somebody said there's a little black girl in New Jersey that's raising some Rufus, and she needs to come here because she has been a part of this criminal justice reform movement for 21 years. And for that, our now president, that I tell everybody, I got 99 problems with the Trump administration, but criminal justice reform is not one of them. He has been the only president, besides Barack Obama, that has really worked on criminal justice reform. And today we have the First Step Act into law. And when it is law, people are coming home from prison. Nonviolent, first-time drug offenders, women and men who have been languishing in our prison systems for decades are free. That's work. So thank you all for coming. I really want to hear from everybody else. And follow us on Facebook, Women Who Never Give Up. Join us, donate, keep the work coming, help, vote, volunteer, get involved. Don't wait till it happens to someone you love. But I'm talking to the choir because I believe everybody in here is here for a reason. So, thank you. Thank you.